through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Thy rod and thy staff will...
Exodus. From Pharaoh's point of view, a long time ago, in Egypt a new Pharaoh was put into place. All men lived under Pharaoh's mercy, and all the Egyptians saw him as God. He was very wise, and his knowledge rivaled only by his masters, the priests who anointed him. One day, in one of the meetings, one of his ministers pointed out to him that a group of slaves have a god of their own, and that they only believed in that particular god. You see, their religion requires them to have only one god, so they cannot have many gods. Thus, you cannot possibly be considered a god for them. Another minister added, and their numbers are growing rapidly. We civilized people bring few children and raise them right, and they multiply like animals. A third minister added, and if tomorrow there will be war, they might join the enemy. Since they don't consider themselves Egyptians, they hold no allegiance to the country. The king did not like the sound of that, not at all, and said, so our goal is to control their god, and for that we need to control their leaders. One of the ministers said, but they don't have a leader. How can one control their leader as they are leaderless? Another minister replied, then we shall create a leader for them. The first minister said, let's assume you have a good leader. Why will they accept your man as their leader? The other minister replied, because I know the formula for creating leaders. It is a very old formula, but it works every time. You see, this method is called the Hegelian dialectic. First you create a great tragedy to the slave and don't stop. In this state, when he himself understands he cannot escape on his own, he will look for a leader. The prepared leader will heroically save the man, and fight off the danger. Since the leader gave the slave his life back, the slave will now regard him as a master. And please note, the greater the tragedy, the better the results. Here is the plan. Step 1. Create a leader. Step 2. Herd the Israelites to the desert. Step 3. Kill the elderly and the suspicious. Step 4. Re-educate the young. Step 5. Take the re-educated new Israelites back to civilization and start working the slaves. Pharaoh said, sounds promising. Now, let's talk about the details. Step 1. Create a tragedy. Every male Israelite that is born shall be murdered. This decree has no expiration date. And then, prepare the hero leader for his role. Create the hero's story to sell to the Israelites. The story: one of the Israelites was saved from death and lived with the king, and the king didn't know he was an Israelite. After years of Israelite torture, the prepared leader is going to stand up to the king, and he murders 2 Egyptians in the defense of some Israelites. Afterwards he runs away, meets with the God of the Israelites, and returns to save his people. His name shall be Moses, for he will draw the Israelites out of Egypt. And we shall tell the Israelites that his name is Moses, because the daughter of Pharaoh drew him from the Nile River. Step 2. The new leader shall take them to the desert. The army must be behind the Israelites as they leave Egypt at all times for 2 reasons. 1. To protect the new leader and his agents, which will be afraid, because if the Israelites discover their plans they will kill all of Pharaoh's agents. 2. In order to prepare a big spectacle for the Israelites behind the mountain when they receive their new rules at the mountain. The story we will sell the Israelites is that Pharaoh changed his mind, and now he is chasing them very slowly, and he will play as if his army is drowning, so the Israelites won't suspect that all the lights and spectacles, that will appear, when the rules will be given, are from the Egyptian army, on the other side of the mountain. Step 3. The leader shall meet Pharaoh on the mountain, for the new commands. When the leader returns to the people, he shall start murdering every slave who did not fully obey Pharaoh's commands. Step 4. Re-educate the people, and continue murdering every slave which did not completely obey. Even the slightest disobedient will result in murder by the obedient slaves, which will produce more obedient slaves in the future. Step 5. Take the re-educated new Israelites back to civilization, and start working the slaves. The land we will take them will be called Canaan, which in Hebrew is a form of the word submitted. The end. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have been enlightened.